Carla Espinoza has been Sacred Heart's Northern Star since before most of these interns were in high school. When the original series premiered, she was already a fully competent nurse, already earning the kind of respect from Dr. Cox that he withheld from basically everyone else. She did not have to build her reputation because when these interns walked in the door, she was already there, already running procedures, already covering for them while they found their footing. And in the 2 decades since, she has helped train everyone from the charge nurses to the surgical interns to the current chief of medicine. She is going through menopause, and her body is doing things that she cannot control. And this episode wars with itself over exactly that tension, hiding your problems or admitting you need help. The episode opens on Dr. Face as a teaching exercise. Turk delivers some bad news to a family, and he keeps his face perfectly in place. The interns standing behind him are not capable of doing this. JD narrates that his own Dr. Face has gotten much better over the years, and that it is a professional skill that every person in that hospital has spent years perfecting or will need to develop. Then, immediately, the episode tests his assertion. He steps into the elevator with Amara and Asher mid kiss. They break away abruptly, but he holds his face perfectly still. Then, as he exits and meets up with Turk, JD finds out that he is not invited to this year's barbecue. JD has been to 16 years of these barbecues and considers it a tradition.
We're writing a prescription for our barbecue tradition.
Yep.
I'm already wishing for next year's edition of our
Harmony?
barbecue tradition. Tradition.
Turk tells him, ultimately, it was Carla's decision to exclude him. Instead, she wants to invite Elliot and Wes. Turk is not willing to fight for JD on this one. He has been dealing with his own problems.
She's going through menopause. She's having mood swings, night sweats, day sweats. She's always wearing sweats. I'm starting to avoid her.
Hey, have you seen Turk?
Okay, he's right.
What gets me is that Turk openly admits that he is avoiding Carla. Usually, when people are avoiding something, they do not know they are doing it. Meanwhile, as JD finishes up with Turk, who has miraculously reappeared once she left, Carla has returned to the nurse's station and is being fanned by Elliot. Elliot is excited about the barbecue, and from the context clues, we can determine that it is a potluck event. She and Wes have decided that they are going to bring pretzels. You know that people are not impressed with the dish you want to bring when they tell you to just bring ice. But as we take time to process this, Carla self-combusts.
Doctor faces, everyone. Doctor faces.
I thought this was really funny, and it is decent CGI for a network comedy budget. After Carla miraculously heals from her combustion, she and JD make their way to Mr. Butler's room. On the way there, JD tells her that he misses her, and she nearly starts crying before telling him not to be sweet. JD walks into the room, and Mr. Butler is in for bypass surgery and brought his own ranch dressing from home by the gallon. He describes himself as a ranch snob. Now, if you are a genuine ranch snob, you have to track down the specialty stuff. They are not selling that by the gallon, and that is clearly a jug of Hidden Valley Ranch. It is what all of us plebs reach for when we want ranch. But as he is processing this, JD's narration introduces the concept of nurse voice, which is the complement to Dr. Face. Where Dr. Face keeps your emotions in check, nurse voice is the tool you use when you actually want to reach someone. JD delivers the clinical message that you need to make serious lifestyle changes or the bypass is pointless. Since he gets nowhere, Carla steps in and switches into nurse voice. Now, unfortunately, we don't know if this got to him because the scene cuts away. Over with Turk, he assigns Dashana her first bad news delivery. Dashana pushes back immediately. I'm pretty sure that Turk said something exactly like this in the original series. And if he didn't say it, Denise definitely did on the medical side. Speaking of which, it made me pine a little for season 8's Denise. Same problem, same hard shell. and the same competence hiding behind it. I was genuinely invested in where that character was going until season 9, but we do not talk about season 9. Turk tells Dashana that she is just like a younger him. Darshana is happy to hear this, but Turk corrects her and says that it was a bad thing, that he needed to work on connecting with his patients, and so will she. As we move back to the nurse's station, we are introduced to a patient who is under the impression that she is Mariah Carey. But we'll get back to this because the camera is going to cut to Elliot talking about Wes with Carla. Now, Carla is playing the diplomat here, which caught me off guard. When Elliot asks her what she thinks about Wes, Carla says that he seems perfectly fine. For this character, perfectly fine is not a compliment. It is barely a clearance. Carla Espinoza has never in her life described something she actually liked as perfectly fine.
Over the head!
But right after this, Amara and Asher get caught in the supply closet by TikTok Doc. She grabs some gauze and runs out. And we transition to JD and Carla in the morgue. You see, JD is aware of her menopause symptoms and has decided to hide ice cream in the morgue for when she gets her hot flashes. Carla takes this opportunity to tell JD about the changes that she's going through, confide in him about the anxiety, the moodiness, and the sleeplessness. And she is trying to do everything that she used to, and she still feels like she's coming up short. Now, JD, to his credit, does not try to fix this. He just listens and lets her vent, while apparently working pretty hard to suppress a fantasy about her becoming Teen Wolf.
I'm not Teen Wolf.
Carla as Teen Wolf? Don't get distracted. She needs you.
Until we reach the conclusion, this is the one part of the episode where both of the masks just vanish. There's no doctor face. There's no doctor face, no nurse voice, just two people being embarrassed about getting older together in a room full of presumably dead people. Side note, I kept waiting for Dr. Doug Murphy to materialize in the background somewhere. That man spent half of the original series haunting that morgue. His absence felt like the missed opportunity, even if it only needed to be just for a second. While everything is going on in the morgue, Turk sends Dashana in to give bad news to the Garcia family using a motivational poster speech. Dashana walks in, delivers the bad news, and the family decides that they all want to hug her. And I'm genuinely surprised that there's no HR policy in place against forcing your interns into physical contact with non-patient strangers. This definitely seems like somewhere that Sibby should have popped up. Dashana manages to escape the clutches of the grieving family and runs directly into Amara, who is absolutely giddy and apparently feels zero shame about being caught in both the elevator and the supply closet on the same day. If you recall, Amara has been sheltered her entire life, and she is currently living with her aunt. Her social activities include making pasta and watching the Great British Bake Off. Kissing Asher is apparently a gateway drug for her to want to try new things like sushi, pole dancing, and flashing a trucker. Luckily, Dashana talks her off the pole and invites her to go out with them on Saturday night instead. Amara accepts and she is absolutely thrilled, so yay for her. I'm happy for her. But we move to Blake, who is dealing with the patient who thinks she's Mariah Carey. She has cellulitis, but before she will allow herself to be treated, she has a list of things that she wants him to procure. He takes the list and walks out. But elsewhere, Turk and Carla are at lunch. Carla has fallen asleep at the table, and Turk immediately wakes her up and points out that she fell asleep again. Carla obviously snaps at him, and Turk backtracks in a way that almost comes off as being afraid of your wife.
Again? What does that mean, again? You're always saying again.
I wasn't nothing. I'll just be talking sometimes.
Or afraid of talking to your wife is probably the better way to put it. For this entire season, there's been a running thread with Turk. Whether we are seeing his burnout, or whether he has developed avoidance issues, or whether this is some combination of the two things, he has been sidestepping a lot of things across multiple episodes. But before we can get deeper into this, JD shows up with a power smoothie for Carla. It is another gesture and another way of managing her symptoms, while also trying to convince her that he should be invited to the barbecue. As Carla walks off to get more napkins, Turk tells JD that he is playing with fire and that he is going to get burned. He compares him to the grizzly bear guy who thought that the grizzly bears loved him and who thought he was part of the sleuth, and then they tore his ass up. But JD spins this as just knowing how to talk to women and just being better at understanding the female sex. I kind of laughed at this because it is worth pointing out that JD has never been all that great at dating, and he tends to only get along with other women that are incredibly neurotic. And, if I might remind you, this is the man who fumbled the hot harpist from the previous episode. As they're talking, Elliot and Wes show up and join the table. Wes mentions that he has to take a trip, and on his way back, he is going to bring back a Kansas City brisket for the barbecue. And I know that I gave him a lot of shit.
You know, Lloyd, just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber, you go and do something like this and totally redeem yourself.
Just looking at this table, a pilot flying in a brisket is exactly what I want to see. Now we are cooking with charcoal. We cut back to the nurse's desk after lunch. Elliot is back with Carla and trying to prod her into giving her honest assessment. Carla drops that Wes is kind of boring, and we are starting to see her patience or her diplomacy starting to crack. Meanwhile, on a completely different end of the relationship spectrum, Asher and Amara are making out again. This time, they're in one of the patient bays. They at least had the sense to close the curtain, so maybe they won't get interrupted. But Asher told his dad about Amara, and she immediately panics. His dad's advice was to do something nice for someone you like every single day. So Asher got a personalized teddy bear and put flowers in her locker. Ordinarily, I would think this would be genuinely sweet, but when a woman is not receptive, this comes off as kind of stalkerish behavior. Turk tracks down Dashana and tells her that she failed the Garcia family, but she is going to get a second chance. And the reason is that Mr. Garcia apparently had a second family he had been running on the side.
You get to retake the test.
Okay, retake the test. Mrs. Garcia knows he's dead. I made that very clear.
Remember when the Garcia family was saying how he was always away working?
Yeah.
Yet what he was working on was hiding his second family.
Ooh, second family. This is my favorite kind of hospital gossip. Second only to when the baby come out the wrong color.
Oh, God, I cannot believe this.
Now, I don't know what it is about this revelation that piqued my interest, but I kind of want a full documentary on this man's life. The how and the why and the logistics alone. You know, I have a hard time managing one family, so having two just kind of feels like voluntary torture. But Dashana goes in anyways, and it goes about as well as you can expect. While she does this, we move back to Blake, who is attempting to manage the Mariah Carey patient. He comes out of her room and he immediately finds Elliot. Elliot's advice for Blake is,
in order to heal a part, we must understand the whole.
Which means supporting the delusion. Now, this is where I have to pump the brakes. The floor protocol for a patient with active psychosis is not to support the delusion. Playing into it makes breaking the delusion later a lot harder. You are not helping the patient. You are reinforcing the false belief and kicking the actual treatment problem down the road. And speaking of supporting the delusion, Elliot tells Blake that he is the best intern in the hospital, then watches him light up before revealing that that was just a demonstration. I consider this kind of mean, but her statement was actually kind of true. The show has established via exposition in earlier episodes that TikTok Doc is probably the standout intern. But when it comes time to show and not tell, the camera keeps finding Blake. And all of the really interesting discoveries or character beats or literary beats revolve around him and not TikTok Doc. But Carla arrives at the charge nurse's station to find that JD has cut her patient load and arranged for the charge nurses to manage her daily workflow. He did this without asking or consulting her, and the charge nurses, who Carla had previously trained, are more than accommodating about it. I'm not sure that would ever happen, but you know what? It's a fantasy. JD and Turk walk up as Carla is being made aware of what's going on. Carla loses her temper and threatens JD. He then tells her that she is overreacting before adding that it is probably just the hormones. Now, my man, in the entire history of those two sentences being said to a woman, this has never once worked. It has never gone over well. You should have known this. And the moment JD said maybe it's just the hormones, I swear I heard boss music. But after Carla unleashes on him, Turk just laughs.
Tore your ass up.
And this is the energy of a man watching someone else getting mauled by the bear after he specifically said, "Do not poke the mama bear." Carla unloads on him and then storms off. JD is somehow able to materialize in the hallway and tries to make it up to her. That is when she goes off on him in Dominican Spanish. JD wonders aloud what testiculos means, and you would think the context clues would be pretty clear. Side note, knowing Spanish was a plot point back in season 1. Sacred Heart apparently serves a sizable Spanish-speaking community, and a number of their patients are primary Spanish speakers only. Turk learned Dominican Spanish at some point, either for Carla or to impress her mother. I can't remember which off the bat. But either way, JD has spent 20 years as the third wheel in that marriage. Two of his closest friends are deeply embedded in Dominican culture, so he should at least be conversational by now. But without Carla, JD makes his way back to Manny's room, and he is still eating the ranch. As JD is trying to talk to him, it comes out that Manny is putting ranch on everything in order to feel closer to his grandmother, so it is a coping mechanism, and the ranch is how he holds on to her. A desire to retreat into a simpler time when things were less complicated, which, for a man about to go through bypass surgery, is both understandable and a problem. This is a real thing that people do. Retreating into a previous version of yourself that feels safe and manageable, where you understood the rules and you were happy. The ranch for him is just the vehicle, and the series is full of people doing this same exact thing in different ways. But back to Amara and Asher. Amara is for the streets. She has experienced basically nothing as an adult woman, and she is not about to let that slide. I actually respect the take, even if I don't like the presentation. Asher is clearly bummed, but because he likes her, he goes along with something he's not into at all.
I want to keep it cash.
Yeah, I'm glad you said it first. Yeah, let's keep this fun and meaningless and empty.
Totally. We'll accept a lot of fun. I'll see you later then.
Yeah, or maybe you won't. I don't care.
I'm so glad we talked.
As you're watching the actor, he does really well because you could feel the part of his soul and the inner light go out in the character. The scene cuts away back to Dashana, already in the middle of a second family hug. She is able to Looney Tune her way out and walks off with Turk. She tells him that she does not care what he thinks, that she is a surgeon, and being a surgeon is what she does. She cuts. That line is straight out of the original series. Turk tells her that all he hears is a stupid 25-year-old version of himself. Dashana also mentions that she will never have an emotionally codependent person in her life, which means that she is definitely about to get one. That is just how the cat distribution system works. And as Dashana is talking to him, Turk finally realizes that he has to stop running and confront what he has been avoiding all episode. As he walks into the break room,
how's it going?
Your wife is dead. Some aging, incompetent bitch has taken her place.
Don't you talk about my wife that way.
Carla tells him that she loves him, and Turk responds with an "I know." This man just pulled off the Han Solo. So you know he's really feeling himself. You know, Turk spent most of this episode dematerializing every time she walked into a room. He came back, he stayed, and he was actually present for her. That is the payoff that I want to see for these two characters, because it means their relationship is developing even if it's off screen. But the episode gives it about 2 seconds to breathe before JD pops up from the couch directly behind them. He was apparently just lying there the entire time. He, of course, is complaining about the barbecue again, which undercuts something that the episode did really well. But over in Mariah Carey's room, Blake brings her some juice and some water, and the patient lets it slip that she hopes her family comes to see her. You know, I felt bad for her, genuinely. Whatever is going on with her, that part was delivered incredibly authentically. But now that Carla has gotten her pep talk and that she's feeling better, she goes back into Manny's room. She straight up takes the ranch dressing from him and tells him that his body can no longer handle the things it could when he was younger. He has to let go of the bad habits and the things that he can't do. It is a speech she is going to have to apply to herself as much as the patient. She heads back out to the nurse's station and runs into Elliot. Elliot mentions that she no longer cares what anyone else thinks and that she is comfortable with her relationship with Wes. Carla takes that as the opening she has been waiting for and drops the bomb.
Because he's a little dull and not funny, and I think he looks like the man in the yellow hat from Curious George.
Have you ever thought about hormone therapy?
And after she said it, I cannot unsee it. And this right here is the Carla that I had been waiting for all season. Because I know she did not spend all day with this man and only clock one thing. That list has been running in her head since breakfast, at least. From here, we go to Asher and TikTok Talk in the supply closet. There is a scene where Asher confides some of his emotional issues. I don't really care about it. It didn't really do anything for me as far as the character goes. But JD walks into the supply closet and TikTok Doc informs Asher that great, because JD is now going to assume that they're hooking up. So you got to appreciate that JD probably assumes that Asher is hooking up with Amara in the morning and TikTok Doc in the afternoon. Honestly, after everything else with Asher this episode, I'm just glad that this scene is work related. Elliot walks down the hallway, and as she's walking by the door with the Mariah Carey patient, she catches Blake performing a dance. Now, if this patient were actually Mariah Carey, as she believes, she probably would have choreographed this entire dance herself rather than letting him freestyle. So even if she's not Mariah Carey, maybe she should look into doing choreography for a dance troupe. And then Amara, still on cloud 9, volunteers to move in with Dashana, and it apparently goes pretty well. Dashana didn't put up nearly as much resistance as I figured she would. And like I said earlier, after telling Turk that she didn't need an emotionally supportive person, the universe immediately corrected her and gave her. I'm pretty sure that these two characters of Dashana and Amara are going to be the JD and Turk of the next generation of doctors, or maybe the JD and Turk of the series if they try to spin things off again. But now that we have new roommates, the camera goes back to JD and Carla in the morgue eating ice cream. They are sitting on what looks like an examination table, and Carla explains that she uninvited JD from the barbecue because she could see through his doctor face and that she could see that he was scared. If Carla created a situation where it was safe for him to retreat into a previous version of himself, he would never get back out there and he would never find happiness of his own. I actually really liked this bit of writing, and bravo. Oh, and the show ends with the IT support guy from previous episode. He swallowed an Astro Boy figurine to avoid paying the 6% customs tax on a $15,000 collectible. Now, by my math, that's about $900. And in America, the ER visit alone is going to cost him more than that before they even locate the thing. You know, he spent more trying to save $900 than he would have just paying the tax. Obviously, if you swallow something, it has to come out. That's just physics. And apparently also a lesson in basic economics. But if you made it this far, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.